Hey again, everyone. Welcome back to Speaking of Sundara, where I talk about Sundara, Dawn of a New Age, my fantasy RPG setting. This week, I wanted to remark on something that had sort of passed me by and I hadn't noticed it, but also something that affects me as a creator, that affects Sundara as a setting, and which honestly is something that affects a lot of other creators and a lot of other settings out there, and a lot of us don't want to talk about it. So, I will be the one who bites the bullet and brings it up for everyone to discuss. Now, for folks who don't know, I have been steadily putting out Sundara content for 4 years now. It was February 2021 when the first book of Cities of Sundara, Ironfire, dropped for both D&D 5e and for Pathfinder's Classic, first edition. And it's been a bit of a wild ride since then, if I'm honest. We've gone through the OGL kerfuffle, we've gone through the release of new editions, we've had so much stuff happen. And throughout all of that, I have tried to keep expanding the world, keep making fun things, just keep making stuff for players, for game masters, for all of us to just keep our tables hopping and to keep things interesting. But there is something that needs to be addressed. It is either the elephant in the room or the canary in the coal mine, depending on which metaphor you prefer and how serious you find this issue to be. But it is one of those things that we as creators, whether it's as larger companies or as individual independents, we are discouraged from talking about this. It is a thing that to bring it up is usually seen as a sign of weakness or, in some cases, a manipulation tactic. And what that does is it stops an honest flow of information from you to your audience so that they don't really know what's happening, and it means that they also don't have context for the things that you're doing, the things you're saying, or the decisions you're making. So I wanted to whip that curtain out of the way, and I wanted to talk to everybody about support. It is a word that gets thrown around a lot these days, particularly if you're an independent creator, but quite literally, support is just an audience who wants to help make your project bigger, better, funded. And support might be you going out and buying all of the books that a creator puts out, making sure that they get a big fat royalty check at the end of the month, making sure their sales, they go high, and the publisher notices and the public notices. It might mean following them on social media. It might mean subscribing to their various channels, whether they're on YouTube or whether they have a podcast or whether they're one of the folks who got on Blue Sky and they're trying to get their message out. It might just mean leaving comments, being engaged, leaving reviews of the things you have bought so that that creator signal doesn't get drowned out by everybody else who's trying to do the same thing. And support comes in a lot of different ways, but at the end of the day, it is the most important thing a creator, a property can have, because support is what determines whether or not they keep making stuff. Yes, that is not an exaggeration. It is not some random bit of business insider knowledge of it's quite literally of, does this product, does this setting, does this game have an audience? If it does, you keep making things for that audience and you try to expand them. If there's no audience, or if that audience just isn't enough to warrant the payment that you need to give to the artists, the creators, the actual printers, then it goes on the shelf and in some cases just gets deleted because it's not worth keeping around. And this is one of those things that people just don't like to talk about, quite honestly, because there is you've seen it in my comments in the videos. If you go back and you look through some of them, you've seen it in my blog. If you read Improved Initiative, you see it in various social media locations where people go to discuss making games. There is this overwhelming belief that you as the creator are the one that has the vision, that you should just do whatever it is that comes to your mind, that drives you creatively, that leaves you fulfilled. And if you do that, then people will find it, people will play it, and you will find your audience, and you will get the support that you need. And I am here to tell you right now, that is a lie. Full stop, no question. It is probably the worst advice you can be given if you are here as a serious person and you are looking to actually succeed. Succeeding in TTRPGs as a creator is already hard enough. You do not need to be going off of really bad advice. Because there are lots of projects I and other creators that I know have had where we really believed in it. We thought it was a great idea. We were full speed ahead. We had all the conviction in the world that this was a great concept. no one agreed with us. And as such, those projects, those products, even if they got finished, even if they got greenlit, even if they got made, did not sell any copies, or only sold a handful, in which case the publisher did not make back what they spent to help us make it, and they certainly were not going to greenlight additional supplements for something that didn't have an audience. And that is the issue I find myself facing with Sundara. Because when I first started releasing it, when the original Cities of Sundara books were dropping, they did pretty well, not gonna lie. They didn't eat up the charts and give me enough money that I could kick my feet up and take a bit of a break, but there was a noted interest in them. And so after 4 or 5 books, I decided, well, let's expand the rest of the setting. Let's do some other weird stuff. And so I moved from Gods of Sundara, sort of explaining how the lack of alignment in this setting made important changes if you're playing it in either 5th edition or Pathfinder's Classic Edition. And then I moved into Species, and I wanted to give folks some interesting lore drops that may or may not be true, and I wanted to give additional options for subspecies. And then I moved from that into Factions, and I just tried to keep giving people fun stuff. And while there was some interest in it, it was not as much as I needed, certainly not as much as the initial interest in the cities when they first dropped. And that interest just seemed to wane no matter how much stuff I put out, or even when we brought in other creators, because both Adrian Kennelly and Isaiah Burt have been contributors to my setting, and they have added a lot of fun things over the years. It's just been really hard to get people's attention and to get people invested and involved. And it is for that reason that I sort of pulled back on making more Sundara content. Not because I was out of ideas, not because I didn't find it creatively fulfilling, not because it wasn't really fun to play with, and not because I ran out of expansions I wanted to do. It was quite literally because, looking at the numbers, if I wrote a Sundara supplement, there would be 10 to 15 people who would get a copy. If I wrote a standard 100 random objects for either sci-fi or fantasy in general, you'd be looking at 50 to 150 sales, which, in addition to the upfront fee that I would be paid for writing it, is really more appealing. If it's easier to write something when you know people are interested in it, when you know they will pick it up. If you're just writing something for yourself, or if you're just doing something off, like in your office that you know maybe 5 or 6 people are going to care about, it's really hard to stay motivated with that. And so I went back, I tried to get Sundara out in front of more people, I tried to, big up the signal, I've gone on various shows to talk about it, I keep this show going, obviously, and I just don't let it fall out of the public consciousness as much as I can, but it has been really tough getting people to actually check it out, to walk in through one of the various doors and take a look around. And I have tried as hard as I can to make it as accessible to everyone as possible, whether you're a player who's looking for fun new mechanical options, whether you're a game master who wants an entire growing world to play in, or you just want something you can take little bits and pieces of and put them down into your home game, whether it's you need a city in the middle of the desert and you think Maud sounds cool, an entire city full of undead run by a necromancer's guild, or whether you just want certain fantasy guilds, you want to bring in the Landers Guild as your villains perhaps, or you really like the idea of the Manhunters and you think that would be a cool thing to give to one of your players who wants to run a ranger. I try to give people as many options as they can and as many ways they can interact with the world and the content as possible. But the almighty algorithm does what it does, and it is really tough overcoming that, that boot on your signal. And so that's why I wanted to make this video and talk to folks today, because I am still working on what is a soft phase 4 for Sundara, the Whispers and Rumors, which are not as popular, but they are more popular than I thought they'd be, if I'm honest. And these are supplements that go with the original 5 cities books, and these are just organic things that you can drop into the city when people are either looking for Whispers and Rumors, or if you as a game master think the city is cool, but you're not entirely sure what you would do for a plot in it, whether it's a small arc adventure or whether you want to take it and use it as a basis for building an entire campaign off of. The purpose of these is to give you some inspiration and to give your players some things they can overhear at the bar, at the marketplace, so that they feel that this is a real living location and there are all sorts of things going on, whether those things apply to them or not. And if you are a fan of my audio dramas, there's a fun little fictional story going through all of the Whispers and Rumors books that will culminate at the end, and hopefully those are going to start coming up on the channel very soon, depending on time, energy, effort, etc. But while I'm finishing this up, I wanted to reach out to my audience. I wanted to ask all of the viewers out there, like, what would get you engaged? What would make you check this setting out? This is a very, very serious question. I am not just looking for someone to pat me on the head and tell me that I do good work and I'll check out anything you make. If you feel that way, phenomenal. I love you. Please keep reading my stuff. But I am right now trying to reach out to folks who maybe they're a little reluctant. Maybe they've seen Sundara around and it hasn't really jived for them, or maybe they've seen a couple of things that I've done and it hasn't quite fit with them and their needs. In the comments below, tell me, what do you want to see more of? Do you want to see expansions of something that's already come out? Whether it's you want to see actual modules set in places like Ironfire or in Horde Reach, City of Worms? Do you want to see stuff that we haven't made yet, whether it be longer expansions of fiction in places that, well, Isaiah hasn't covered yet and I haven't covered yet? Do you want to see the world get bigger? Do you want more cities to play in? Do you want more species to play as? Both gargoyles and minotaurs have been discussed for those who are curious. Or do you just want more fun mechanical stuff? Do you want more magic items? Do you want some pre-made curses that could be used? Do you want booby traps? Do you just want ruins to explore or plots to get involved in? I could do all of these things. I have ideas for all of these things, if I'm being honest. But I'm trying to gauge the audience reaction. I'm trying to just tap the barometer and see what is it that you all would be interested in? What would really get you going? Because my hope is that if I can get enough folks to step in the door, whichever door it is you prefer, that maybe it'll reinvigorate the interest in Sundara, both from the audience and from myself, because like I said, I've got notebooks full of ideas, but some days it just feels hard to sit down and work on them when I know it's mostly just for me and that handful of people who like this setting and will do their best to get anything that comes out for it. So, if there is something you would like to see, leave it down in the comments below. At least 7 words if you can, because the algorithm likes that. But in addition to that, if you are a fan of Sundara, if you have been playing in the setting, or if you've just been reading it and you think it's fun, tell me what your favorite aspect has been so far. Tell me something that you feel I did right, or that you think should be expanded on, or if you saw something that you think was a mistake that I should correct in a later errata. I am looking for any engagement I can on the setting, both to try and keep it pushing forward, but to get more of us together so that hopefully we can dedicate the time, energy, effort into really expanding the setting the way it was when it first came out, and people can get something every month, every couple of months, rather than just waiting for me to get around to it whenever I happen to have extra gas in the tank and when, well, I'm not depending on additional sales to come in that month. So that is my request to you. Until next time, happy gaming, everybody.